Dana White's Contender Series Season 9, Week 4 is tomorrow night, September 2nd, and I'm about to give my full card picks, predictions, breakdown. We're 13-2 so far this season on picks, and we're looking to keep that trend rolling. I have one sneaky underdog this week, but it looks like the favorites might be getting it done again. If you're here, like, subscribe, share the video with your friends, and we're going to hop right into it with a featherweight bout between Tommy McMillan and David Magoyan. So for this fight, Tommy McMillan is, he's a strong, athletic fighter. He has awkward striking. To me, it's not super impressive. I thought that this guy would be a favorite going into this fight just because, I guess he trains with Sean O'Malley, Tim Welch out in Arizona. He throws a lot of kicks. He does a lot of jumping knees to get pressure against the cage. He does have real solid jiu-jitsu, honestly. I watched, I think, his last fight in his career. He got a pretty solid looking submission, little transition, and I was actually impressed by his jiu-jitsu. But this guy, David Magoyan, to me, he's a better striker. He's cleaner on the feet. He has great wrestling. Typically wrestling that's going to keep him safe from any type of front chokes. So I'm thinking he's going to utilize his wrestling. I think he'll be fine in the striking department. If for whatever reason Tommy McMillan's awkward style is enough to overwhelm Magoyan, I think he can just go right to that wrestling. Wrestle intelligently enough to where he's not going to find himself sticking his head into a front choke and probably get the fight done. He could get his own sub. Inside the distance for Magoyan is live, but if I had to guess, Tommy McMillan's pretty tough, and I could see this going 15 minutes. But the pick here is going to be David Magoyan. He's 7-0, fighting Tommy McMillan, who's 8-0. So Tommy McMillan just wasn't super impressive to me outside of his pure jiu-jitsu. His striking isn't very special. His, he's big. He's a big guy for the division, but I got to trust my gut. I'm looking at, the records, which neither of them are that incredible, but just watching them fight, I got to go with David Magoyan here. And the method, I want to say decision, honestly, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys got a finish, if Tommy McMillan was able to find some sort of sub, but the more confident pick's got to be David Magoyan. Next, we got Antoine Ho versus my boy Eduardo Chapelin. I like Eduardo Chapelin. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. Pretty cool dude, cool story. He lost to Joseph Morales, if I'm not mistaken, and Joseph Morales has shown to be an absolute dog, so I don't take anything away from him there. He's going to have the experience advantage here, 14-2 to 6-1. He has a little more than 2 times the amount of fights. Antoine Ho already fought on Dana White's Contender Series, losing to Loney Kavanaugh. And, me and Nick, we like those second-timers on Dana White's Contender Series. But here, I kind of like Eduardo Chapelin. I think he throws good volume. He mixes it up, head, body, leg, throws solid power. He's well-rounded, willing to engage anywhere he can grapple. And then you got Antoine Ho, who is a dynamic striker. He's probably the faster guy. He's willing to use his own wrestling as well offensively. He likes to, hug his opponent, trip him to the ground, and he can scramble pretty well too in jiu-jitsu or in grappling exchanges. But I kind of want to take Eduardo here. I think Eduardo is going to be able to... This is a tough one, man. I was going in here. I want to pick Chapelin. That's my guy. Antoine Ho is solid. He has been finished. Obviously, he only has one loss. We saw him get put out bad against Loney Kavanaugh. And Eduardo Chapelin's tough, man. I feel like he's going to be able to eat some shots, take one to give one. And he does throw solid volume as well. If he needs to, I think he can wrestle. This is a tough pick. I think Antoine Ho is a live dog here, but I'm going to go with Chapelin just because I think he's got that grit, and I don't think Antoine Ho necessarily has it. If the fight starts to get tough for Antoine Ho, I could see Eduardo Chapelin breaking him and finding a TKO or submission finish. So I'm going to go with Eduardo Chapelin, but this is the first live dog of the card, in my opinion. Tommy McMillan's live by sub 2. It is what it is. I just think Magoyan's going to be too much in the wrestling department. But Antoine Ho could find a devastating blow and finish Chapelin. Do I think that happens? No. But this now that I'm recording this, I'm more nervous picking Chapelin than I was when I was doing my research. So we're just going to go Eduardo Chapelin, potentially finding a second or third round finish over Antoine Ho via overwhelming with volume and breaking his opponent. And next we got Mandel Nalo, Samuel Silva fighting at lightweight. I watch Mandel Nalo. He throws decent kicks. He seems to have good ground and pound. This guy, let me look at my notes for this guy. Good high and low kicks, willing to grapple. He wasn't that impressive to me. I do like his low kicks, and then he goes back up high as well. Pretty solid. But Samuel Silva to me seems like a dog, you know. I don't think Nalo's 36. I thought he was 33, but either way, he's the older fighter here. And Silva, my notes for Silva, you know, he looks to be the more explosive fighter. There's a significant difference in strength of schedule. He uses kicks and knees to damage his opponents, and he can finish fights in multiple ways. One thing of note is his right high kick. Samuel Silva can throw that thing multiple times in a row very quickly. Samuel Silva, it seems to me like he's a dog. I think he's going to go out there and he's going to find the knockout in the first or second round. The difference in strength of schedule is significant in this fight. So I got to go with the guy who's fought better guys, who looks better to me. He looks more explosive. He looks more powerful. And I think he has higher upside to finish this fight. Mandel Nalo is probably going to get caught throwing some low kick or a sloppy high kick, get damage to the body, and then finish with a head kick. So we're going to go right head kick knockout for Samuel Silva, probably in the first round. And next we got Theo Haig and Cezary Olekjaychik. We got Michael Olekjaychik's brother, his little brother. And this guy seems to be pretty decent. He's got a wealth of experience. He has the better strength of schedule as well. It's not even close. Theo Haig is solely a grappler. He's 6-0. I think all of his wins come by submission. And then you got Olekjaychik, who is knocking motherfuckers out. So for this fight, I got to go with Olekjaychik. You know, part of me in a D-Gen sprinkle would take Theo Haig by submission. If we get some pretty sick odds for that, I think Theo Haig by submission is worth a small sprinkle just because that seems to be his only win condition. But the way that I see this fight playing out, Olekjaychik's going to be too much. He's going kind of like Olekjaychik, Michael Olekjaychik versus GM3 in his last fight, you know, grappler versus striker. I think he's going to be too much for Theo Haig. He's more experienced. He's fought the better guys. He's an explosive fighter. So probably first round knockout for Olekjaychik here, but I think if the prop for Theo Haig submission is juicy enough, worth a little quarter unit sprinkle on that one. So we're going to go Olekjaychik first round knockout, probably a devastating blow. I wanted to pick the American here, but I just cannot do it. Simply cannot do it. There's absolutely nothing that leads me to believe that he's going to be able to win this fight outside of a Hail Mary submission. So we'll go with Olekjaychik by knockout in the first round. And like I said, if the odds are juicy, sprinkle Theo Haig by sub just in case something crazy happens. And then the main event, we got Jack Cogden and Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani in a welterweight bout. So Jean-Paul is pretty short, man. It says he's 5'11" on here. I was seeing 5'9" elsewhere as well. But this is going to be the one dog of the night. I'm going with the boy 50 cal Jack because, you know, although he's a little bit slower, I'll give the speed advantage to Jean-Paul, the grappling upside to Jean-Paul probably as well. But he's pretty small for the division, and he's gotten knocked out a couple times, once by Jacoby Jones and once by absolute legend Spike Carlisle. So I don't take the Spike Carlisle loss. You know, Spike Carlisle is my guy. So, you know, nothing crazy losing that fight against an experienced vet. But the thing for me here is the odds are very wide. Jean-Paul is going to be a minus, at least on this page here, has him at minus 500. He's similar to that from what I saw in the books. Jack Cogden I was seeing at plus 350. So he's a massive underdog here. And he's going to be my one underdog pick of the week. You know, I think he's got the power. He does good work to the body. He is pretty slow, but he's a much bigger guy here. And I think the power differential could be what ends up making the difference here in this fight. I think Jack Cogden could potentially find the knockout finish. Like we've said, Jean-Paul has 2 losses, both come by way of knockout. He lost to Jacoby Jones, who's 8-3, not bad, or 7-3, not bad, but he's susceptible to getting knocked out here at welterweight, where he's a little bit undersized. I think this guy could be fighting at lightweight And even if John Paul wins this fight, I would think that he might be considering making the move to lightweight for his UFC career. But with all that being said, I'm going to go with the bigger guy, the more powerful guy, the American, 50 cal Jack Cogden. And I'm going to take him in a massive, not massive, but a big upset in the main event of Dana White's Contender Series Week 4. So we went with 4 favorites. All of them are, not all of them, but some of them are pretty close money. We got David Magoyan, relatively close money. Eduardo Henrique, pretty close money. And a couple of the other guys are a little bit bigger favorites. But just to go through it one more time, we got Tommy McMillan over David Magoyan. Actually, run that back. David Magoyan over Tommy McMillan. The wrestling pressure is just going to be too much. Antoine Ho and Eduardo Chapolin. I just think Eduardo Chapolin will be able to use volume and grit to break Antoine Ho in this fight. Mandel Nalo just hasn't fought the strength of schedule of Samuel Silva. I think Silva's going to be an absolute dog, and I think he's going to finish it with a right high kick, knocks Mandel Nalo out. Cesario Jacek, first round knockout over the submission specialist Theo Hague. He just has too much experience. Theo Hague has one path to victory. And in a similar respect, Oleg Jacek does too. I just think he's going to find it first. And then in the main event, you got to give me Jack Congdon, man. Give me 50 cal Jack to get it done with the size advantage and the power advantage. And like I said, if I'm picking against a minus 500 favorite, obviously John Paul could win this fight. I'm just going with a dog that sticks out to me a little bit. Congdon's going to be slower, but he's going to be more powerful. He's going to be bigger. And I think he could find a shot that hurts John Paul and potentially puts him down. So I'm going to go for the big dog money in the main event. I like to pick at least one underdog per card. I didn't last week, but it worked out. We went 5 for 5. We're looking to go 5 for 5 again this week. Like I said, we are 13-2 on picks this season. Looking to keep that trend going. If you watched the video, let me know your favorite pick of the week. If you have an underdog, let me know your underdog. And of course, like and subscribe. I'm going to be back ASAP probably tomorrow night to be dropping my UFC Paris picks. And we're going to be after it ASAP, y'all. Let's get it. And oh yeah, always make sure you always do your own research. Bet responsibly. And most importantly, as always, enjoy the fights. Let's go.